The words hit me like a physical blow, yet I stood there calm. The money is gone, Mom. We transferred the entire fortune Dad left you into Patrick's account. My daughter, Sarah announced, a mocking sneer twisting her lips. Her new husband, Patrick, stood beside her, a smug grin on his face. They thought they had won. They thought they had taken everything. But they were wrong. You should have been a better mother-in-law, I responded, my voice steady, betraying none of the turmoil inside. How interesting, I thought. Because the true fortune my husband, Arthur, had left was protected in an account where they would never think to look. And at that very moment, the bank would be doing exactly what Arthur had ordered months before he died. But to understand how I arrived at that surreal moment, standing in my own living room, listening to my daughter confess to robbery with the tranquility of someone ordering a latte, I need to go back 2 months. Back to the day I buried Arthur. The day my life, as I knew it, came to a complete stop. It was a Tuesday in March when the cancer finally took the man who had been my partner for 43 years. The chapel was filled with white flowers, familiar faces, and words of comfort that sounded hollow in my ears. I was 71 years old, and for the first time in my life I felt truly alone. Arthur had been my rock, my confidant, my best friend. We had built a life together since we were 22, back when he was just a young clerk at an import firm, and I was working as a secretary at a local school. Sarah cried at the funeral. She cried with those dramatic, heaving sobs that drew the attention of everyone present. Patrick, her new husband, held her by the shoulders, offering her tissues, whispering words into her ear. I watched them from my seat in the front row, feeling something strange in my chest, something that wasn't just grief for Arthur's death. It was a discomfort, a sensation that something didn't quite fit. My daughter had visited her father only 3 times during his last 2 months of life, 3 times in 60 days. And every time she came, Patrick was with her, always attentive, always asking about paperwork, about accounts, about properties. After the burial, everyone returned to my house, the same house Arthur and I had bought when we got married, a modest middle-class home in a quiet suburban neighborhood. People ate the casseroles and sandwiches the neighbors had brought over, drank coffee, and shared stories about Arthur. I moved among them like a ghost, smiling when necessary, thanking them for their condolences, feeling like my heart had turned to stone. Sarah approached me at the end of the afternoon when most of the guests had already left. "Mom, we need to talk about practical things," she told me, taking my hand with a softness that I now know was fake. "Dad left a lot of loose ends. Patrick and I want to help you organize everything. You shouldn't have to deal with this alone." I nodded, grateful in that moment for her apparent concern. How naive I was. The following days were a blur of sadness and paperwork. Arthur's lawyer read the will. The house remained in my name, the main bank accounts in my name. Some minor investments were divided between our 2 children. Although our eldest son, Daniel, had passed away in a car accident 10 years ago, so his share went to his daughter, my granddaughter Lily. Sarah listened to everything with attention, taking notes, asking questions that at that moment seemed sensible to me, but that I now understand were calculated. "There is a joint account," the lawyer explained, reviewing his documents. "A savings account in the name of Mrs. Eleanor Vance and Miss Sarah Vance, established 2 years ago. Mr. Vance set it up this way for reasons he considered prudent. It currently has a balance of $100,000. Sarah nodded but said nothing. I barely paid attention. $100,000 seemed like a significant sum, yes. But at that moment the only thing that mattered to me was the void Arthur had left in my life. What I didn't know, what I couldn't know in the midst of grief, was that this joint account was a trap. Not for me, but to reveal the true intentions of those who approached with sweet words and empty hugs. Arthur had planned it all with the precision of a strategist. 3 months before he died, when the pain was constant and the hopes of recovery were null, he had sat me down on our back porch and told me something I didn't want to believe. "Eleanor, my love, I need you to listen to this very carefully." Arthur had begun, holding my hand with that tenderness he never lost, not even on his worst days. "When I am no longer here, some people are going to show their true faces. I don't want you to think badly of anyone, but I need you to be prepared." I had protested, telling him that our family loved us, that our loved ones wouldn't change just because he was no longer there. But Arthur had shaken his head slowly. "Money changes people, or rather, it reveals who they always were. I have worked for 52 years, Eleanor, since I was 16 and had to leave school to help my mother. I have built something important, and I want you to be protected." Then he explained his plan. We would leave an accessible, visible account with a considerable amount but not our entire fortune. That account would have Sarah as a co-signer. If she really loves us, if that Patrick is a good man, they will never touch that money without your consent. But if I am right, if there is greed in their hearts, they will show themselves as they are as soon as I close my eyes. I had wept that night, begging him not to think that way about our daughter. But Arthur had been firm. It's not distrust, my love, it's caution. And if I'm wrong, if Sarah turns out to be the loving daughter we both believe she is, then this plan will never be activated, and I will have been a foolish, paranoid old man. But if I am right. He left the sentence unfinished, but his eyes said it all. The rest of our fortune, more than $2 million in real estate, investments, bonds, and international accounts, remained protected in legal structures Arthur had created with specialized attorneys, irrevocable trusts, accounts with specific clauses, investments requiring multiple authorizations, everything in my name, everything under my absolute control, everything invisible to curious eyes that only looked in the obvious places. Weeks passed after the funeral. I tried to adapt to my new reality. I woke up every morning expecting to hear Arthur's voice calling me from the kitchen, asking if I wanted coffee. I brewed 2 cups out of habit and then remembered, with a stabbing pain in my chest, that he was no longer there. The house felt too big, too quiet, too full of memories that now hurt like open wounds. Sarah came to visit me, but her visits had a strange pattern. She always arrived with Patrick. She always asked about papers, about documents, about bank accounts. "We just want to make sure you're organized, Mom," she would say with that smile I then interpreted as filial concern. Patrick would nod, adding comments about the importance of getting everything in order and being practical in these difficult times. One day, approximately 6 weeks after the funeral, Sarah arrived with a folder full of documents. "Mom," Patrick spoke with his lawyer, "we have a proposal that is going to benefit you a lot. Remember that joint account Dad opened 2 years ago? Well, as a co-signer, I have certain rights, but we want to do things right. We want you to sign here officially authorizing that both of us can manage that account. It's just a legal formality to protect you." I, in my naivety, in my grief, in my blind motherly trust, signed. I signed without reading the fine print. I signed without consulting an independent lawyer. I signed because I believed my daughter. The following morning, I received a call from Daniel Bennett, Arthur's longtime bank manager. His voice was unusually grave. "Mrs. Vance, I'm calling regarding the joint account. There was a large transfer this morning." My heart dropped. "What kind of transfer?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "The entire $100,000 was transferred out of the account to an external account belonging to a Mr. Patrick Sterling." A cold dread washed over me. It was happening. Arthur's plan, his warning. My daughter had done it. "Can it be reversed?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Technically, your daughter, as a co-signer, had the legal right to do this, especially after you signed the authorization. However, Mr. Vance anticipated this possibility." The words blurred as Daniel explained Arthur's foresight. He had set up a special protocol. If the $100,000 was ever moved without my explicit direct instruction to the bank, it would trigger a series of actions. First, my primary accounts, holding the true fortune, would be immediately frozen and transferred to a new, highly secure trust accessible only by me and requiring multiple biometric authentications. Second, a legal team, pre-arranged by Arthur, would be notified to initiate a financial restraining order against Sarah and Patrick. Third, I would be contacted by Maxwell Sterling, a trusted attorney, to update my will and ensure my true wishes were reflected. And fourth, a bank alert system would be implemented, preventing anyone from even attempting to access information about my accounts. "And my granddaughter, Lily?" I asked, thinking of the daughter of my late son, Daniel. "She has always been different. She has never asked me for anything." "Arthur mentioned her specifically," Daniel replied. "He suggested that if you wish, you could include her in your will, or even establish an educational trust for her if she has children in the future. But that remains completely at your discretion. Lily is now a 30-year-old woman, independent and hardworking, as I understand." I nodded. Lily was everything Sarah wasn't. She worked as a nurse, lived modestly, visited her grandmother regularly with no hidden agenda. After her father died, I had tried to be present in her life, and she had reciprocated with genuine affection. She had never tried to take advantage of me, never mentioned money or inheritances. She simply loved me. "I want to include Lily," I said firmly. "And I want to make sure Sarah receives nothing more from me, neither now nor after my death." Maxwell Sterling, the attorney Arthur had pre-arranged, took notes on his computer. "Understood. I will prepare all the necessary documents. We will need 2 more sessions to sign everything correctly. I also strongly recommend that you consider obtaining a financial restraining order." "What is that?" I asked. "It is a legal document that formally notifies Sarah and Patrick that any additional attempt to access, solicit, or manipulate your finances will be considered financial harassment and may result in legal consequences. It is preventive. It sends a very clear message that you are protected and legally advised." "I like the idea," I said. It wasn't revenge, it was protection. "Let's do it." We spent the next 2 hours reviewing documents, discussing options, planning strategies. When I finally left Maxwell's office, it was almost 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I felt exhausted but strangely empowered. For the first time since Arthur's death, I felt like I had control over my life. That night, sitting in my living room, I made a cup of the chamomile tea I liked so much. I sat on the sofa with a blanket over my legs and looked at the family photographs covering the walls. There were so many happy memories captured in those frames. Sarah as a child smiling without front teeth. Daniel as a teenager, proud in his football uniform. Arthur and I on our wedding day, young and naive, with no idea of everything life would bring us. At what moment had everything changed? When exactly had Sarah begun to see me as a resource instead of as her mother? Had it been gradual or sudden? Were there signs I had ignored because I didn't want to see them? I remembered a conversation we had years ago when Sarah was going through her divorce. She had come home crying, telling me her life was a disaster. Everyone abandons me, Mom, she had sobbed. First, Dad died. No, wait. I got confused. First, husband left me. It's just that I feel like all the men in my life fail me. At that moment, it had seemed like a simple emotional error. Now I realized it had been a Freudian slip. To Sarah, Arthur was already emotionally dead 3 years ago. She was just waiting for him to die physically so she could access his money. My phone vibrated. It was a text message from Sarah. Mom, it's been 2 days. Your silence is worrying. Patrick and I are going to stop by tomorrow afternoon to make sure you're okay. No, they were not going to enter my house again. They were not going to contaminate my space with their manipulative presence. I replied for the first time. Do not come. You are not welcome in my house until further notice. I am perfectly fine and perfectly capable of taking care of myself alone. The response arrived in seconds. What is wrong with you? Are you still angry about the money? We already explained it was a practical decision. Don't be dramatic. Dramatic? She called me dramatic for being upset because I had been robbed. The audacity was astounding. I carefully typed my response. I am not being dramatic. I am being clear. You took $100,000 without my true consent. You deceived me into signing papers I didn't fully understand. That is called theft. No matter how you try to justify it, I need space and time. I will not contact you. And I hope you respect my decision not to be contacted. This time the response took longer. When it arrived, the tone had changed. You are unbelievable, Mom. After everything we've done for you, after how we've taken care of you, Patrick was right about you. You are ungrateful. Don't worry, we won't bother you again. But don't come crying when you realize you are completely alone. I blocked the number. Simple, direct, liberating. If she had something important to tell me, she could do it through the lawyer, Maxwell Sterling, whose contact information I would send her formally in the coming days. Tuesday morning, I visited the bank. Daniel Bennett received me personally in his private office. Ms. Vance. First, let me express my most sincere condolences for the loss of Mr. Vance. He was an exceptional man and an extraordinary client. He sat across from me with an open folder. As I mentioned on the phone, I have been monitoring your accounts according to the instructions Mr. Vance left. The transfer of $100 Zirzodu was executed last Thursday at 11 in the morning. Can it be traced? Can it be reversed? I asked, although I already knew the answer. Technically, it was a legal transaction. Your daughter had authorization as a cosigner. However, Mr. Vance anticipated this possibility. He instructed us that if this specific transfer occurred, we were to immediately activate a series of pre-arranged measures. All your other assets, totaling over $2 million, have been moved to an irrevocable trust in your name, with new security protocols. No one, not even your daughter, can access them. We have also initiated the financial restraining order against Sarah and Patrick. They will receive formal notification today. A wave of relief washed over me. Arthur, my brilliant Arthur, had protected me even from beyond the grave. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for everything. It was Mr. Vance's wish, Ms. Vance. He was very clear about his desire to protect you. He loved you very much. That afternoon, I received a frantic call from Sarah. Her voice was shrill, laced with panic. Mom, what have you done? The bank just called. They said all your accounts are frozen. And what's this about a restraining order? Are you trying to ruin my life? Sarah, I said, my voice calm, steady. I am simply protecting what Arthur left me. What he left for my future, not for you and Patrick to squander. But it was our money. Dad wanted us to have it. You're being selfish. You're cutting me out, she screamed. Arthur left you a substantial amount in that joint account, Sarah. An amount you chose to take without my knowledge or consent after deceiving me into signing papers. That was your choice. This is mine. You'll regret this, Mom. You'll be all alone. No one will want to be around you. I am not alone, Sarah. I have people who genuinely care about me, and I have my peace. Something you seem to have lost in your pursuit of money. I took a deep breath. Our relationship, if we have any in the future, will depend completely on your actions, not your words. If in a year, 2 years, 5 years, you have shown with your life that you truly changed, that you became someone with integrity and compassion, then maybe we can talk about rebuilding something. But for now, I need to protect myself, and that means keeping you at a distance. I heard her ragged breathing on the other end of the line. Where are you? You sounds like you're outside. I am in Italy, in Rome, alone. And it's okay. Better than okay, actually. I am learning to be happy by myself. I paused, choosing my next words carefully. Sarah, I spent too many years of my life measuring my worth by how much I could give to others, how much I could sacrifice myself, how much I could endure. But your father taught me, even after dying, that my life also is of value, that I deserve peace, joy, dignity, and that is what I am choosing now. I love you, Mom. Her voice was barely a whisper. I loved you too your whole life. But love is not enough when there is no respect or trust. Maybe someday we can rebuild that, but today is not that day. I took a deep breath. Take care of yourself, Sarah. I truly hope you find your way. But that way cannot depend on me. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were trembling. Tears ran down my cheeks. But they were not tears of weakness. They were tears of liberation. I had said what I needed to say. I had set the boundaries I needed to set. And now I could continue living my life without the burden of guilt I had been carrying. That night, back in my small boutique hotel, I wrote in the journal I had started keeping since arriving in Italy. Today I spoke with Sarah. Part of me wanted to rescue her like I always have, but I chose to rescue myself instead. I chose my peace over her comfort, and although it hurts, I know it is the right thing. Arthur would be proud. The remaining days of my trip passed in a melancholic beauty. I visited the Sistine Chapel and wept in front of the creation of Adam. I walked through the gardens of Villa Borghese and felt Arthur's presence by my side. I ate homemade pasta in small trattorias where the owners treated me like family. And slowly, day by day, I felt the cracks in my heart begin to heal. When I finally returned home, Lily met me at the airport with a bouquet of roses, the same ones Arthur used to give me. Welcome home, Grandma. I missed you so much. We hugged amidst the airport bustle, and I knew I was exactly where I needed to be. The following months were of quiet reconstruction. I continued with my painting classes. I joined a volunteer group at a women's shelter, helping others who had experienced family financial abuse. My paintings improved. My social circle grew. My life filled with purpose that didn't depend on being useful to people who didn't value me. Lily started her specialization program. I visited her regularly, bringing her homemade food, listening to her stories about patients and studies. Seeing her bloom, knowing I had helped make that possible, filled me with a satisfaction no money could buy. From Sarah, I heard nothing more. No more calls, no messages. It was as if she had finally accepted there would be no more financial rescues. And although a small part of me still wondered how she was, the greater part had made peace with the distance. Today, almost a year after that terrible day in my living room, I sit in the same spot where Sarah announced her betrayal. But the room feels different now. Lighter, filled with photographs of my travels, paintings I have created, memories of happy moments with Lily and true friends. In my hand, I hold a cup of tea, and in my heart, I hold peace. I don't need anyone's permission to live my life fully. I don't need validation from people who only valued me for my utility. I don't need to carry guilt for setting healthy boundaries. I am Eleanor Vance, 72 years old, widow, mother, grandmother, amateur artist, traveler, survivor, and for the first time in a long time, I am genuinely happy. The true fortune Arthur left me wasn't the $2 million. It was the lesson that my dignity is worth more than any toxic relationship. That self-love is not selfishness. That it is okay to let go of people who hurt you, even if they share your blood. That is the most valuable inheritance I could have received. And as I wrote to Arthur in a letter I left by his grave last week, thank you, my love, for protecting me even after leaving. Thank you for teaching me that I deserve peace. I am living the life we dreamed of together. Only now I live it for both of us. I love you eternally.